Hey, it's Trip here from the 87th. Just returning from a mission back to the departure air base. I'm at 22,000 feet and I have steer point 1 selected. I'm 62 miles from the airport. I've got a 4-ship that I'm leading here back to the air base. We all made it back alive. And I'm wondering now, where am I going to start my descent into the airport? If I wait too long, I'll get too close to the airport, I'll be too high. I'll have to have some drastic measure like a split S, some kind of high dive to get me down to the airport where I can get into position to land. I don't want to be that abrupt, especially if I have an aircraft that's having mechanical problems or lost instruments and needs me to lead him back. Maybe the weather is IMC, it's real soupy out, can't see where we're going. If I got over the top of the airport and did a split S, I would lose him for sure, and then he'd be in a lot of trouble. So I've got to be fairly smooth about it, do a little pre-planning, thinking ahead of the airplane. And so what I've determined that works for me is I just fly along until the steer point diamond, which represents the airport, when that comes down the pitch ladder, as it will as I get closer to the airport without descending, the airport will start to get lower and lower and lower in the HUD. When the steer point diamond touches the 5-degree pitch down mark on the pitch ladder, which is right here, I'll start my descent. And what I'll do is I'll put the flight path marker over the top of the diamond, which will be over the top of the 5-degree pitch down line, and I'll have a nice comfortable rate of descent going as I descend. So I'm going to speed up the airplane a little bit. Watch the diamond as it falls toward the 5-degree position. You can see it moving now, so this is just to confirm that that's actually what's happening. I'm going to wait till it just about gets there. Alright, we're back to normal operations. So there it is, just at about 5 degrees nose down. I'm going to put the flight path marker on the diamond, which is on the 5-degree indice, and pull my power back to maintain 7.6 on the Mach. I'll tell the flight that we're going to descend at 0.76, so I'll know what my airspeed is, unless it's something else has been briefed prior to the mission. Alright, next thing I'm concerned about is what runway am I going to land on? Well, if I took off on runway 14, then 99.9% of the time when I come back to that same airbase, the runway for landing is going to be, in this case, 14. I can actually, with the, well, I don't even know if I have the tower tune. I'm going to try this. Let me just see here. I'm going to put something totally different in here. Give the tower a call. No, I'm not hearing anything. I have the tower volume down so you can't hear it. Let me put in 1.5 again. And now let me give them a call. Oops, wrong one. Nuts. Alright, 3059. Alright, runway 14. So even though I'm more than 30 miles from the airbase, if I try to request landing, it should tell me I'm too far out, call back later, I'm busy. But I'm more than 30 miles away, yet I can still get the landing runway from the same lady. Just kind of curious. But it's good information, because what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to go down to the HSI, the Horizontal Situation Indicator, and with the course selection knob here, I'm going to set 140, which is the runway heading. And so if I think of the HSI as a bird's eye view of the battlefield, this is me in the airplane, and I'm, in my mind, going to use the CDI, the course deviation indicator. I'm going to use that as the runway. So at some appropriate point, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to turn left to a heading of 320, which is the reciprocal of 140. You don't even have to do any math. You don't have to subtract 180 from 140. Just look at where the tail of this course arrow is, and that's the heading you're going to turn to. And so that's going to put me on a downwind heading. And then at the appropriate point, I'm going to turn right 90 degrees to a base leg, and then right another 90 degrees, put myself on final. So that's what's known as a right downwind, okay, pattern. If I overflew the airport, the CDI centered and I flew and I was on the other side of the airport and I turned left to a downwind heading, I would have to make a left turn to base and a left turn to final. So in that case, I'd be on a left downwind. So that's what they mean. That's the difference between a left and a right downwind. It determines which way you're going to make turns in the pattern. So for instance, I'm going to turn after this initial turn to put me on a downwind heading. Then each subsequent turn is, in this case, going to be a right turn. Right base, right final. If I did a touch and go, I'd come up and make a right crosswind and I'd make a right turn to downwind. So all my turns in the pattern are right turns, so that's a right downwind. And same thing for left downwind. All right, so I know I'm 44 miles from the airport, and I've got a nice, comfortable descent going at 5 degrees nose down. And the next thing my wingmen are probably wondering about is, well, what formation are we going to fly? Well, we could do a in-trail, all landing 2 or 3 miles in-trail, or we could do a echelon left or right, or we could do an overhead brake, or even if a couple of airplanes are lagging behind, trying to catch up to the formation and struggling at it, we don't have to land as a four ship. We can just land and operate as two independent elements. So 1 and 2 maybe we'll do a overhead brake, and 3 and 4 they can decide what they want to do independently of what we're doing. So give them an idea of what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you want the flight to be doing. Yeah. Alrighty. So let's continue to run here. Take it off freeze. We're 43 miles from the airport. At some point, I'm going to start descending at a faster rate, and I choose around 18,000 feet. Just the transition between the high altitude structure and the low altitude structure. So once I get below 18,000 feet, my computation is a little bit different. Instead of holding 5 degrees nose down, I calculate where I want to be if I was flying a 3-degree glide slope. A 3-degree glide slope is the same thing we fly when we fly an ILS or when we do a visual approach. The VASI is set at 3 degrees, so it's a nice, comfortable line to be on as I descend. So in order to tell whether I'm on a 3-degree glide slope, I simply take the altitude that I am away from the airport and multiply it by 3. So we're coming up on 30 miles. That's an easy number to calculate. So that's 30 times 3 is 90, and I add 2 zeros, so that's 9,000 feet. So at 30 miles from the airport, I want to be at 9,000 feet above the ground, continuing my descent, of course. And that's just will give me an idea of where I am in relation to that 3-degree glide slope. So let's see, at 30 miles, we're going to be quite a bit higher than 9,000 feet. So I might want to tell the flight, okay, let's pull the power back to idle and descend at 350 knots. And so now that's a big airspeed change. We need to tell the flight members that so that they can adjust accordingly. So there's 30 miles. We're at 13,000 feet. But remember, we got some maneuvering to do. We're not going to land straight in. We've got to turn left to a heading of 320, and then we got to make a couple of right turns. So even though we're a little bit high, we still have plenty of room over the ground to descend. All right, I'm going to pause the machine again here and talk about this. As a wingman, number 2, number 3, number 4, it would be a good idea if you brought up the air-to-air radar and got lead locked up on the radar so that you could read in the MFD, you could read his heading. You'll be able to see him probably if it's VFR, but you have his heading down here, you'll have his airspeed here, and here you'll have your overtake speed. You'll have that same overtake speed up here in the HUD. It's a great cue for you to station keep or to maintain your distance from lead. Now if you're using air-to-air TACAN, you'll have your distance from lead set here, but you won't know what your overtake is unless you have that displayed up here. I mean, how fast are you catching the guy? So if you're supposed to maintain a mile in trail, then you want to match your speed with his speed when you get to 1 mile. So if the overtake speed says 0 here, then you obviously have your speeds matched. Alright, so one thing that I hear a lot of pilots do is, whether they're climbing or descending, the wingman will ask the lead, "Hey lead, what's your pitch attitude?" Well, you know what the pitch attitude of lead is just by looking at his airplane. If this little piece of land right there was the lead airplane, all you have to do is take a line parallel to the horizon from his airplane over to your pitch ladder, and where it intercepts the pitch ladder, that's his angle of descent in degrees. So he'd be descending at about 7 degrees, the same as we are in this case. All right, so that works when you're within about maybe a mile or so of lead. If you're outside a mile or more, then I mean, it's possible that lead could be down here in level flight, and you're just descending to catch him. So his rate of his pitch down is not 6 degrees or 7 like you are, but when you're close enough to see him, you can see that he's in a descent, or you can see that he's climbing. So just draw that line over to the pitch ladder, and you'll know exactly what his pitch attitude is. So no need to garbage up the radios with useless calls. All right, let's let the airplane run again. Now, if I'm in air-to-air mode, I don't have that diamond in the sky there that represents the airport, but as lead, I don't need to be in air-to-air. As a wingman, you don't care because you're looking at lead out the window, and you're just maintaining position on him visually. And you have the radar up so you can see his, I mean, he's the one that's doing the descent into the airbase, so you're depending on him to lead you there and get you where you need to be, so you can monitor his altitude, airspeed, and heading and so forth while you're descending. Alright, so we're coming up on 20 miles from the airport. 20 times 3 is 60, plus 2 zeros is 6,000. So when I get to 20 miles, I expect to be at 6,000 feet. I'm coming through 8,500 feet and still not at 20, so we're looking pretty good here. We're just slightly above that glide slope. So the point of the 3-for-1 calculation is I know about where I am in relation to a normal glide path. I don't really need to have this diamond anymore and have it down at 5 degrees. I can start my turn to maneuver to get on a base leg or something like that. So when I roll out, the diamond's gone. I don't know where it is. Of course, you can use the indication here of where the diamond is. I hadn't thought of that. But when you get this close to the airport, I'm just doing a 3-for-1 calculation. Okay? I don't know what 18 times 3 is, but I know what 15 times 3 is. That's 45, and add 2 zeros is 4,500. So I'm a little bit high. I'm still 17 miles from the airport. I got plenty of time to lose altitude. I'm not going directly to the airport, as I said before. So everything's looking good here as far as the altitude goes. Here's what the picture looks like on the HSI. I've almost turned to that 320 heading for downwind, so I'm on a kind of like a dog leg to the downwind. And I'm going to just come down here, turn left to 320, and make a couple right turns to find them. All right, well, I'm not going to continue this all the way to landing. I just wanted to talk about the en route descent portion and planning. Give your wingman a heads up on what you're thinking if you haven't already briefed it beforehand. And that way you know what he's planning on doing, and if he does something contrary to what he briefed, then you can remind him, hey, we need to turn left instead of right, or whatever he needs to be informed about. So be a good little weenie. All right, that's it. I hope you got something out of this. Trip out.